Dear friends, English literature, Introduction to Drama, As You Like It by William Shakespeare, Short Questions with Answers, Short Questions 52 to 61. Question 52. Do you find any paradox in As You Like It? Answer. A great deal of this play, As You Like It, is constructed on paradoxes. When Rosalind flees to the forest of Arden, she disguises herself as a man named Ganymede. Ganymede is really a woman, Rosalind, who is in fact is really a male actor, a young boy actually, playing a woman. Even more dramatically, we can affirm that the forest of Arden has novel savages savaging novels. Orlando is far more savage than the novels he finds eating there in spite of his novel upbringing. When Duke Senior and his men sit down to eat their meal, Orlando burst upon them. Orlando bursts in upon them with a drawn sword and warns them against touching the food till he and Adam have first been fed. But surprised by the civility with which he is greeted, Orlando says, "Pardon me, I pray thee, I pray you. I thought that all things had been savage here." Orlando thinks he is in a savage place, yet the wilderness is more civilized than he is. The paradoxes in As You Like It is not only play with the notion of pastoral, but also challenge gender identities. None can deny that there is a paradox in being both a woman and a man. In Shakespeare's time, the issue of gender was much looser than it is in modern society. At the time, women were considered anatomically identical to men, except that the uterus was thought to be inverted male genitals. This view of sex allowed Shakespeare to have Rosalind as Ganymede pretend to again be Rosalind. Question 53. Jack is a bundle of inconsistencies. Explain. Answer. According to Stanley Wood, Jack is a bundle of inconsistencies. He is a mixture of witty sensibility and merry sadness. He is a child of folly and a professor of wisdom. At one point, he loves his melancholy better than his laughing, but at another moment, he loves sans intermission an hour by his dial. At one time, he seeks society. At another, he avoids the company of man. He has been sensual in his youth and has exhausted all the pleasures of the artificial life of the court. He is a man of lively imagination and artistic temperament. Being deceived in his intercourse with man, he turns from the vanities of the court to seek comfort and consolation in nature and solitude. But he cannot change his nature. He has not within him the spirit of reverence and contentment to lead him to true happiness. Thus, he is a bundle of inconsistencies. Question 54. What does Jack tell about the nature of his melancholy? Answer. Rosalind criticizes Jack for the extremity of his melancholy. When Jack claims that it's good to be sad and say nothing, Rosalind compares such activity to being a post. Jack defends himself, outlining for Rosalind the unique composition of the sadness and explains that his melancholy is a consequence of his meditations upon his experiences. Jack then describes the nature of his melancholy. He says that his melancholy is not the scholar's melancholy, which arises from the scholar's feeling of jealousy of other scholars. His melancholy is not the musician's melancholy, which is the product of an overheated imagination of an artist. He is not the courtier's melancholy, which arises from his pride. He is not the soldier's melancholy, which arises from his unfulfilled ambition. His melancholy is not the lawyer's melancholy, composed of many different ingredients mingled together and extracted from the many observations which he made during his travels. Question 55. Sketch the character of Touchstone. Answer. Touchstone is one of the most wonderful creations of Shakespeare. He is a court jester with motley dress and fool's bill. He is a first great humorist. He has many qualities of head and heart. He has a touching tenderness of heart for which he sympathizes with the suffering princesses and follows them in the forest of autumn. He is also moved by the story of an old man's three sons who were killed by Charles. He has splendid qualities of head too. He has a keen power of observation. He sees through the wickedness of Duke Frederick and points out it in the presence of his daughter. He is above the foolish fashion of the day. He exposes different types of vices prevalent in those days. He attacks foible and folly in the passion of love. When Rosalind talks of the wants of love, he ridicules the passionate folly which he has himself outgrown and cites a love experience of his own in course of which he kisses a cow's udder because his beloved's hands had touched them while milking the cow. His humor is sometimes equivalent to wit, which causes mirth without wanting anybody. He makes a parade of his little learning. His parade of learning and assumption of superior manners are reserved for the people of the lower strata of society. In his dealings with men of low rank, the humorous aspect of his character appears to great advantage. Question 56. What dramatic purpose is served by the introduction of Touchstone into As You Like It? Answer. The introduction of Touchstone into As You Like It serves an important purpose. In the technical sense, he does not belong to the structure of the play, but we cannot dismiss him from the play as a background character. He contributes to the harmony, brilliancy, and lucidity of the play by means of his brilliant utterances. He also helps to make the play a comedy of manners. According to Boas, Touchstone's function in the play resembles that of the chorus in a Greek drama. He comments on and interprets the action of the play, lays bare the weakness of the characters, and supplies the necessary information to the audience. Like the chorus of the classical play, he tells us things which other characters cannot. In the play, he exposes the foolishness of love, the stupidity of the prevalent code of honor, and above all, the lax, conventional, and hollow profession of men. Question 57. In Shakespeare's plays, women always take the initiative. How far is the statement true in the case of As You Like It? Answer. According to George Bernard Shaw, in Shakespeare, it is women who always take the initiative. It means that in the plays of Shakespeare, women play the more significant parts than the male counterparts. Thus, Lady Macbeth in Macbeth, Portia in the Merchant of Venice, and Viola in Twelfth Night play the more important parts than their male counterparts. The statement is also true in the sense in the case of As You Like It. Rosalind is the very center of the play. She settles the details of her journey to the Forest of Arden. She herself disguises as a man and her cousin Celia disguises as a girl. In the Forest of Arden, when Celia is extremely tired of hunger, Rosalind keeps her nerves steady and ministers to her cousin's need. When she meets Orlando in the forest, she urges him to make love to her as if she were his own Rosalind. Through the mock wooing, she dominates the main action of the drama. Again, in the Sylvia's Phoebe underplot, Phoebe plays more dominant part than Sylvia's. She asserts her own will in the matter of matrimony, ignoring Sylvia's love for her. She boldly tries to win the head of Ganymede, Rosalind, but ultimately is cured of her perversity by the superior will of Rosalind. In another underplot, Audrey is the driving power in the story of her life more than William, and finally she chooses Touchstone as her life partner. Thus, in As You Like It, women take the initiative. Question 58. How does Rosalind resolve the love tangle in As You Like It, or how does As You Like It end happily? Answer. Oliver and Celia, Elena, have fallen in love with each other and their marriage is arranged on the following day. When Rosalind, disguised as Ganymede, arrives, Orlando says that his own love for Rosalind remains unfulfilled. She assures him that she can work magic and promises that he will marry his beloved, and he desires when Oliver takes Elena for a bride. Just then, Phoebe and Sylvius appear. Sylvius is in love with Phoebe and wants to marry her. But Phoebe is in love with Ganymede and is determined to marry Ganymede, who is actually Rosalind. But Ganymede promises that Ganymede will marry Phoebe on the following day if Ganymede will ever marry a woman, and makes everyone promise to meet the next day at the wedding. Ganymede also gets the promise from Phoebe that in case Phoebe refuses to marry Ganymede, she would agree to get married to Sylvius. Ganymede then goes to Duke Senior and asks him if he will allow Orlando to marry Rosalind in case she is produced before him. The Duke gives his consent. Then Rosalind and Celia disappear into the forest. After some time, they return dressed as themselves and accompanied by Hymen, the god of marriage. Phoebe, realizing that the young man she loves is in fact a woman, agrees to marry Sylvius. Hymen marries the happy couples, Orlando and Rosalind, Oliver and Celia, Phoebe and Sylvius, and Touchstone and Audrey. Question 59. How does Touchstone explain the 7 lies? Answer. When Jack asked Touchstone if he is determined to fight on the 7th cause, he replied that lie passed through 6 stages and reached the 7th. He related that once he had told a courtier that his beard was not appropriate, to which the courtier sent a message that it did not matter because it was Touchstone's personal opinion. Such a message is called a reply courteous. He told the courtier again that his beard was not well cut, and the courtier replied that he had cut it in the manner which pleased him, was not to please Touchstone. This reply is called quip modest. When he said that beard was not cut properly again, the courtier declared that Touchstone's judgment was totally unsound, and his reply from him is to be called the reply charish. Again, Touchstone repeated his comment, and the courtier replied that Touchstone had spoken an untruth, which was a reproof of valiant. He sent a word again to the courtier, and the courtier said that Touchstone had told a downright lie, which was called counter-check, quarrelsome. Then came what is known as the lie circumstantial, and then lie direct. Question 60. What is epilogue? Answer. An epilogue is a short poem of speech spoken directly to an audience following the conclusion of the play. It is the strongest part of the book. It is the opposite of a prologue. Often the prologue refers to the moral of the fable. Sometimes it is a speech made by one of the actors at the end of the play, asking for the indulgence of the critics and the spectators. While discussing the arrangements of speech, Aristotle says that the epilogue is not essential even to a forensic speech, as when the speech is short or the matter easy to remember. For the advantage of epilogue is abridgment. Rhetoric. Question 61. Describe the epilogue in As You Like It. Answer. In As You Like It, Rosaline speaks the words of the epilogue. She tells the audience of the theater that actually a good play needs no epilogue, as good wine needs no publicity. She calls upon the audience to express a good opinion about the theatrical performance which they have witnessed. She says that she will not beg for the audience's approval, for she is not dressed like a beggar. Instead, she will conjure them. She begins with the women, asking them to like as much of the play as please them, for the love they bear to men. She asks the same of the men, saying that if she were a woman, for all the female roles in Renaissance theater were played by men, she would kiss as many of them as were handsome and hygienic. She is sure of the compliment would be returned, and that the men will lavish her with applause as she courtesies. Thank you friends for watching my video. Please share my video if possible.